This ain't no nostalgia show. We're gonna do something different.
Baz Luhrmann's Elvis tells the story of the king of rock and roll at the speed of light, as jittery and alive with energy as young Presley himself was when he'd take the stage back in the 1950s and gyrate the crowd into a frenzy. There are times when that is absolutely the best approach. Even with some notable omissions from his life story, there is a lot covered here. But Luhrmann's film would have benefited from stopping to catch its breath more than it does. It's that inconsistency and occasionally troubled pacing that prevents Elvis from reaching the dizzying heights it's striving for. But this heartfelt take asks the right questions about its subject and makes it clear why Elvis's contribution to American pop culture remains so long-lasting and important.
There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, but in the end, you gotta listen to yourself.
At the center of it all is a star-making, Oscar-worthy performance by Austin Butler, who captures Presley's voice and mannerisms even if his resemblance to him varies at times. Butler is not going for mimicry here. His nuanced, human portrayal captures the lip-curling, superficial elements one expects to see from Elvis while also revealing the passionate dreamer and ultimately broken soul inside him.
Those people ain't gonna change me none.
It must be noted that Elvis himself isn't the entry point to his own movie. No, Elvis the film is largely a two-hander between Presley and a prosthetics-laden Tom Hanks as his longtime manager, Colonel Tom Parker. This story begins and sorta ends with Parker, a shifty con man with a mysterious past whose hold on Elvis is the main subject of scrutiny here. How did this slovenly carnival barker get his hook so deeply to one of the biggest stars of the 20th century? And why did Elvis stay with him even when he wanted him gone so that his career could soar even higher?
He was my destiny.
There are several answers explored here, but the Colonel's ability to snow people is fully on display as he manipulates Elvis's emotions and desire to never return to the poverty from which he came. While his Bond villain-worthy accent grows wearisome, Hanks excels at playing this conniving character out to achieve his own American dream. Even when Elvis wins by defying the Colonel's wishes, he ultimately loses. And that's the tragedy at the heart of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis.
There are some who'd make me out to be the villain of this here story.
Because it spans a few decades, Luhrmann steers his film like a mystery train that could derail at any moment. Thankfully, it doesn't. But that breakneck speed doesn't leave much time to emotionally take stock of certain major events, such as the death of Elvis's beloved mother, Gladys, the greatest tragedy of his life.
The way he sang is God-given, so there can't be nothing wrong with it.
Outside of Elvis and the Colonel, most of the other characters, even Elvis's wife Priscilla, are thinly sketched. The artist element of Elvis has often been glossed over in the many biopics made about him. While even more of that would have been appreciated here, Luhrmann's instincts prove right in showing the influence music in general had on Elvis and what it truly meant for him as a form of expression. More specifically, Luhrmann's film gives black artists' contribution to American music and to Elvis himself a far greater role than they have ever had before in any prior biopic about him. Luhrmann's film, which was produced with consent from the Presley estate, is certainly operating as a response to the long and widely held view that Elvis simply stole black music and profited from it without ever acknowledging his influences. Luhrmann takes pains to show Elvis's upbringing as a poor white kid living among poor African Americans in Tupelo, Mississippi, and how black juke joints and gospel music revivals hooked him at a tender age. If anything, Elvis the movie almost overcorrects in its attempts to reframe Elvis within the era of the civil rights movement. You would think he marched with Dr. King, but he didn't.
Martin Luther King has been shot to death in Memphis.
That's all right for you.
Tragedy, but it has nothing to do with us.
It has everything to do with us.
Although Elvis's drug usage is hinted at early on, it's not until later in the film, when his place as a long-standing Vegas attraction has been sealed like a tomb, that we see Elvis, the TV set shooting, lyric-slurring hothead, emerge. Scenes of the Colonel and Elvis's personal physician doing whatever it takes to make sure he stays on tour and taking the stage in Vegas ultimately prove heartbreaking. Elvis seems resigned to his sad fate, his dreams of a fuller life and a better career shattered.
Reverend once told me, when things are too dangerous to say, sing.
Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is a dizzying and at times even overwhelming chronicle of the rock icon. Austin Butler is stellar as Elvis, giving it his absolute all in every scene. Truly, a star is born here. Tom Hanks cleverly plays against type as the manipulative and greedy Colonel Parker, a huckster who lucked into being the manager of what he saw as the greatest carnival freak show ever. While the supporting cast isn't given as many dimensions as they could have been in, say, a TV miniseries, Luhrmann tells Presley's story on a grand scale suited only for the big screen, delivering an epic yet intimate maelstrom of emotions, music, ideas, and eye candy. The film's breathless pacing may befit the fevered lifestyle of a rock star, but it can also rush through necessary moments of dramatic reflection. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is a wild ride, clearly made with a big hunk of love for its subject, and that zeal for capturing Presley's humanity, both by its director and its star, outweighs the film's excesses and shortcomings in the end. For more reviews, check out what we thought of Top Gun Maverick and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. For everything else, stick with IGN.
This can all be over in a flash.